Mayor,
need a
we're at
weekend on the
past
other side
7.
of Beacon.
All right. Why don't we start up? So,
Yeah.
good evening, everyone. This is not the official council meeting. We have two kinds of meetings. We have the formal ones where we conduct business and pass various things. This is a workshop, and the workshop is where the council gets ready for the formal meetings. And most of this workshop will be about budget. But we have one item that we're doing, because both our workshops and our regular meetings are broadcast to the community, we can do quick community segments. So we're doing a community segment this evening, and I'll start that up right after I do the roll. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I see everyone here. That was the roll.
You don't
Oh,
have
except
Molly.
for Molly, right. And Molly let us know that, so she's excused. She's
Yes.
in hiding somewhere. And then we
Non-disclosed
also-
location.
Yes, we also have our finance director, Susan Tucker, our police chief, Sans Frost, our city administrator, Chris White. I think our attorneys are not online, but rather are on call if we need them. There are no issues tonight that require any legal advice. And are we good to start up otherwise? I think so. We're good? Okay. So first, I have the pleasure of welcoming and honoring Beacon High School and Max Born Gymnasium foreign exchange student participants. And Kelly, are you going to work this with us? All right, so this is Kelly Ellenwood. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Kiriakou, and Council. Thank you so much for inviting us tonight. I just would like to introduce a few people to speak very briefly about this amazing opportunity that has come to fruition. About 3 years ago, a gentleman by the name of Thomas Schneck met with me and said, "Can we please do something between our two cities, or at least this high school?" And Thomas, you can talk a little bit more about it. But while I'm speaking, I would like all the children to come up and start filing up so that we can get into our formation, so we don't take up too much time. So go ahead, come on.
Where do you want them, Kelly?
I would like them to be standing right here,
Okay.
And they're going to face that
and
way.
they're going to face this way, okay?
And Kelly, is the council invited to stand with them?
You sure are.
Okay.
So I just
Council.
wanted to introduce a few people while they are getting into line here.
Keep backing up,
First
all the
up,
way to the table.
I'd like to introduce Thomas Schneck. Thomas, you can introduce yourself further, actually. Here you go, and I'll get these guys in order. Here we go.
Thank you, Kelly. So, I just want to say also thank you so much for everybody who was involved. So, the City Council for making this an opportunity for us today. I want to say, Kelly, you have been wonderful making this all happening. 3 years ago, we started that journey. The idea was back then that we were looking for a partner school for the Max Born Gymnasium in Germering, which is a suburb of Munich. The reason why we have such a great connection is this is also the headquarters of a company called DocuWare, where I'm a co-founder of. And as some of you might know, we're going to bring also DocuWare, the company, here to Beacon. It's going to be the new US headquarters, going to open up towards the end of the year. And we said, wouldn't it be a wonderful idea to have those two high schools also connected, because the company is located in both locations. It would be also wonderful to have basically both companies connected, both high schools connected in the same way. I personally, I have to say, I'm very moved that this is happening today. I actually was, and I'm just going to switch to German very quickly. Ich war ein Student 1982 in eurem Alter damals. So I was a student in 1982, basically the same age you guys are today. Just to give you some historical reference, Ronald Reagan was the president at this point. Helmut Kohl was the German chancellor at this point. And I graduated 2 years later and then moved into the US in 1995. But the Max Born Gymnasium was a wonderful way for us, or for me personally, to get started. Also my friend Jürgen Biffer, who I also want to mention, he was also a graduate from that high school and really gave us a good start for our professional career later on. And so I'm really moved today that we have this opportunity to come together. And yeah, I want to just say thank you for making this possible for the school, for the high school system. I want to welcome Gelga and Mylin as our teachers here for the next couple of weeks, and I wish all the best for the students. Have a wonderful time here in Beacon, and hopefully all of you parents who are also great hosts. I want to thank you as well very, very much to be so open. And I saw the pictures today with the posters, how you welcomed everybody. It was just, it was blowing my mind to see that, because you don't even know these guys yet, but you're already so welcoming and opening your heart and your homes to them. So this was wonderful. So with that, thank you so much, and hope you have a wonderful exchange. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomas. I just want one of the teachers, Angelica Sonner, to say a few words as well.
Hello, and I just want to say as well that we're so very happy to be here, that this is finally happening, what we've been planning for 3 years now. It was a little bit interrupted by the pandemic, but we are here, and that is great. And especially thanks to Kelly and Thomas and so many other people who were involved in planning this. And we would also like to thank everyone for the very warm welcome that we got from you and from the town and the school, especially this morning. And I'm sure this is going to be a great experience for all of you, a life-changing experience usually, and a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And I do speak from experience because I took part in a school exchange 45 years ago with Chicago. And without that exchange, I wouldn't be here, and I'm still in touch with my host family there. And so I wish you all the best, and you also a life-changing experience, because it gets people together and countries together, and this is, I guess, what we need at the moment. So have a good time, all of you. Thank you.
And finally, I think it's important that we hear from the students themselves. We've asked a few of them to say something. We have a couple. We've got not Claudia, that's your mom, Sophia and Sylvia. They are staying together. Here you go. Here's Beacon High School student Sophia.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm very glad that this whole exchange program worked out. I'm very interested in different cultures, and this is very exciting for everyone, including the PTO. Kelly's worked very hard for years for this to happen, so I thank her. And I want to go to Germany so bad and hang out with Sylvia's family, so I hope to do that in the future. Thank you, Sylvia.
Yes. Well, hi, I'm Sylvia, and I'm also really happy to finally be here. I also want to thank everybody again who worked so hard on this project and make it happen. It's just a great opportunity for us to improve our English, but also to learn about different cultures, and it's been so far really, really cool, and I'm also looking forward to the future and see what the next 2 weeks will bring.
Wonderful. And one more student I wanted to hear from is Simon. Here's Simon.
Hello, I'm Simon. So today, first period, we had this German classroom, and it was very nice. I'm very thankful that we've had coffee and those munchkins. It was very nice, and I'm very thankful for it because it delayed my jet lag for about 4 hours. And yeah, the life in the school, it was very funny. It was very nice to see how an American school works and how it is, and it was nice to see the similarities and the differences between US schools and German schools, and I liked it, and I'm very thankful to be here, and yeah.
I just want to quickly thank all the parents for opening their homes and their hearts to these children, and we are going to do our best to make sure that this is a program that is sustainable and lasts for years to come, so that every year a cohort of sophomores can experience this, and I think our town will be richer for it. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Mayor Kyriakou. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. So I have a proclamation. I have more copies than I can count. Apparently, I need them all. So, in honor of foreign exchange students from Beacon High School and Max Born Gymnasium, whereas sophomores, members of Beacon High School and the Max Born Gymnasium in Germering, Germany, are participating in a joint foreign exchange program in October and November of this year, and whereas 18 students and 2 teachers are visiting from Beacon to Beacon from the Max Born Gymnasium beginning October 23rd. Is that today? That was yesterday. Oh, they arrived yesterday. And whereas a number of residents of the city are acting as host families for these visiting students and teachers during the 2 weeks they will be spending in Beacon, thank you all. And whereas travel is one of the best forms of education, is an important way to gain world perspective beyond what we can offer in our own community, and now therefore, as mayor, I do issue this proclamation in honor of these students and wish each of them a wonderful and transformative experience these next few weeks as they make important connections between our 2 cities and countries during a time of global geopolitical uncertainty. So thank you. Should I hand them out individually, or maybe I could place them somewhere? Yeah, so I'm going to place them all somewhere. You got them? Okay, so I think the other thing we need to do is the photo opportunity. Is that right? See, I get to have all the fun. I didn't have to do any of the work, and I'm happy to do it. It's one of my best roles. Oh, right, and he's also a German speaker, so if, Dan, did you want to say something in German to them?
No.
No, okay.
My family's watching.
No? No, okay. Well, I certainly can. Thomas, come on in. Come on in. All right. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. While we're really here for the high school students, I also want to give a thank you to Thomas. I'll wait. So, Thomas, I just want to say one thing, which is, let them file out, they're too busy. But for those that are still here and listening, I just want to say a thank you to Mr. Schneck and to DocuWare for, one, your contribution to the community, but far more important, your relocation here. It is transformative of the community, and we're thrilled to have you. So, thank you so much. Yep, absolutely. We probably need a 5-minute recess. Yeah.
So those are Dan's kids, and the blue, I think.
Oh my God.
The blue and orange, and I think those are Dan's kids right there.
Hi guys.
Yeah.
Oh hey.
Hey Henry. Hey Leah.
Hey Henry. Hi Leah.
Hey Monica. Great to see you here. Leo's like, he's like, I know that lady, but she looks different.
Of course, anyone is welcome to stay and listen to our discussions of budgets.
Yeah.
We're covering the police budget, the fire budget, the recreation department budget, and they're all running out the door even faster.
How much they could learn.
Trying to blend in, I might just jump in.
I know, wow. I'm shorter than most of them.
I mean, my goodness, I mean,
know.
they were like, oh my, yeah.
I'm used to it. I'm more like the middle school or maybe elementary school. I blend.
Where do you think your kids will land?
Eve will be taller than me in second grade.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Cole
So
will
do you
probably
have
be
two
6'4",
graders
Zach
or
6'4",
one?
and Eve is going to be tall.
All right, so what are the odds? How many will we have left in the room after they through exiting?
Enjoy that.
2, 3? Not counting city employees?
No, 2 counting city employees.
All right.
And Teresa's online.
I'm going to wait till you're done to open up my laptop because I'm trying to save my battery. Unfortunately, I didn't pack my charger.
Oh no.
It's okay. I think I'm good. I have 50% here. I think I should be good. If not, I'll just have to pull it off the top of my head.
So my transformative experience in school had to wait till college. I spent my senior year in college abroad with my vast language capabilities. I went to Britain, where I learned a great deal about British English and kind of honed my English-speaking skills. But it was transformative. But it took me to my senior year in college. All right, we're about done. I can tell jokes for another minute.
I think we're ready to start.
Are we ready? Yeah.
Or you could do can you do a British accent?
No. Okay. So that takes care of that. Thank you all. And next, we're doing budgets, and it looks like police is first, and I'm going to turn it over to Chief Frost, unless you want to wait a minute for...
Just wait for Ben to put up the...
All right. What's that? Yeah.
The inside one.
The inside, yeah, just one set. Although I kind of like hearing them.
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
Let's start up.
Mayor, before we jump in, I just want to remind people of the process here. We proposed this budget on October 3rd. We had a workshop meeting at which we had our sewer, water, and highway departments go through. Tonight, we're going to do police, fire, and recreation, which are the other 3 major departments that have large budget items. We'll be doing a public hearing on November 7th, Monday, so we'll be receiving public comment on this. Members of the council had also asked for a discussion of non-departmental items, kind of miscellaneous items, so we hope to do that at the end of the presentations from our 3 departments. They're not going to read through the presentations that you have, but just give an overview, just like the department heads did 2 weeks ago. So, welcome, Chief. Thank you for coming.
No, thank you for the invite. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. You want to give an overview?
Sure. I will start out just with the first page, just reading off the overview. The department responsibilities. The department provides protection and service to the community around the clock, including nights, weekends, and holidays. It is the mission of the City of Beacon Police Department to provide an exemplary level of service, ensuring public safety and a peaceful quality of life for the residents and businesses of the City of Beacon and all who may visit the community. The department works to accomplish this mission in several ways. The department has handled over 5,000 calls to date in 2022. These include responses to things such as motor vehicle accidents, domestic disputes, disorderly people, mental health needs, etc. The department also seeks to engage in proactive work such as rotating traffic enforcement and patrols of neighborhoods, apartment complexes, and along Main Street. The department takes pride in its focus on being involved in community events throughout the year. Some community events, highlighted ones I just mentioned, is we've done the Bike Safety Day at the New Covenant Learning Center, the I Am Beacon Back to School event. We did two internships this spring with Marist College. And we've done a couple of child safety seat checks and installations. And we try to get out walking on Main Street in some of the apartment complexes as much as we possibly can. The department staffing, the City of Beacon Police Department is made up of 36 sworn police officers, 2 administrative staff members, and 2 full-time police assistants. In 2023, the City of Beacon Police Department will feature the same structure as it had in 2022. The 3-person command staff will be composed of a chief and 2 lieutenants. The Detective Bureau is made up of a sergeant and a team of 4 detectives. 27 officers are assigned to the patrol division and which currently has 4 vacancies. The department expects 2 further openings next year. We have 2 officers retiring next year. The department's sworn officers are supported by a civilian staff that consists of 2 clerical members and 2 dispatchers. The proposed budget adds another part-time dispatcher to the team. The department is also supported by a behavioral health specialist from Mental Health America, who was assigned to the city and is included in this year's budget. Finally, the department has a part-time domestic violence advocate from the Domestic Abuse Response Team, who has an office in the department's facilities but is funded by Dutchess County. In 2022, we hired a new police assistant. She's working full-time, steady evenings, Monday through Friday, 4 to 12. She's actually a graduate of our Beacon Youth Police Academy a little while back. She's been doing a great job. She's came with a little bit of prior experience. She worked for the town of East Fishkill part-time, and she also was involved with the cadet program in the town of Fishkill. But her working Monday through Friday, 4 to 12, actually helps us free up an officer. Instead of working the desk, the officer can now go on the street and handle things out there. Overtime concerns. We've had a big problem with overtime this year. The overview says we've had as many as 8 openings. We've averaged about 9 openings a month this year. We started out the year with 30 sworn officers. At the end of June, we hired 2 more, which got us up to 32. We're budgeted for 36. We had 3 long-term injuries this year. We had 1 officer with a work-related injury in February who just came back to work this week. We had another officer with a work-related injury. He was hit by a drunk driver in February. He's still out. He's had neck surgery, and he's not scheduled to be back till sometime next year. And we had an officer with an off-duty injury that required back surgery, and he was out for 6 months this year. Also, because of the COVID pandemic, we had an officer who was in the National Guard, was activated for about a month and a half this year to assist with that. Also, because of COVID, we had 69 administrative days used up this year because of people with COVID. So the lack of not having the 36 officers and that many people injured or away or with COVID put a lot of stress on the overtime budget this year. Right now, we have 1 officer, the 2 officers that we hired at the end of June. One of them, he was already in an academy when we hired him, and he's just finished up his field training and now counts on the shift. We have another officer who's currently in the Dutchess County Police Academy. He's scheduled to graduate in December, and then he has 3 months of field training, so he won't be starting to count on the shifts till the end of March, beginning of April of next year. And we currently, today, we've asked for a new county list so we can start going off of that, trying to see if we can scramble to get 3 more officers. I don't want to say scramble because we're going to do our due diligence with the backgrounds and everything. But they're talking about another police academy possibly in January or February. So we need to try to hire what we can to get officers into that academy. And like I said previously, we have an officer due to retire in April, and 1 could retire as early as September of next year. I don't know exactly when he's going, but it could be as early as September, or he might stay till the end of the year. The department, we've been building our green fleet. We purchased a Ford Mach-E this year as an unmarked vehicle. It's an all-electric vehicle. That added to our fleet. We already had 2 hybrids that were marked vehicles and a plug-in hybrid as an unmarked vehicle. Thanks to a drunk driver, one of our unmarked cars got towed in the parking lot, and we're going to replace that with an electric vehicle. The driver went through the guardrail up here and down into the lot and struck our unmarked car in the parking lot and totaled it. So the insurance company actually just got back with us today about the amount, so we can start looking to replace it with an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
And the driver was fine, correct?
What was that?
The driver was fine, correct?
Physically. Legally,
Sure.
not so much.
Fair enough.
So we're reaching out to Faye, our city's climate smart coordinator, to see if there's any grant money out there to help out whatever the insurance company's not handling. Again, it's going to be an unmarked vehicle, so we're replacing our unmarked vehicles with all electric vehicles. And as soon as we can find a electric police vehicle for marked vehicles, we'll jump on that. Right now, they still have hybrids. In the capital plan, we're looking to replace one of our older Ford Explorers with a new hybrid Ford Explorer next year to try to push forward into getting our fleet as green as possible.
Sorry, just what are the unmarked vehicles for again?
The unmarked vehicles?
Yeah.
The detectives use the unmarked vehicles, the administrative staff uses the unmarked vehicles. And they're actually, it's cheaper to put them on the road than a marked car. So if we don't have to mark them up and put all the equipment in, it saves us some money with the unmarked vehicles. Okay, we are looking to hire a police assistant next year, part-time. Try to cover Saturday and Sunday day shift. This will help push another officer onto the street on Saturday and Sunday day shift. For instance, this past Sunday we had a pumpkin festival in town, and we had a dispatcher come in to help cover the shift, which freed up an officer to work the pumpkin festival this Sunday. So it's less costly to pay the dispatcher than the police officer. You know? And so we're looking to hire this officer. There was just a police assistance exam where we hire our dispatchers from, our police assistants from, and we're looking to hire someone off the new list when it comes out. The dispatcher we have working now, the police assistant that works Monday through Friday, 4 to 12, she's actually on the police list. She wasn't able to hire yet due to her age, but sometime next year or into 2024, she'll be eligible for hiring as a police officer. So we're looking to see if we can hire a part-time police assistant that might be able to fill her shoes if she gets hired as a police officer and moves on. One thing in our budget, the equipment line item for detectives, which is line item 25000 under the detectives budget. That equipment is for flock safety cameras. We're requesting to purchase, to lease 4 flock safety cameras. Just to read this here for you, during the past year, the city of Beacon has seen several unfortunate instances of violent crime. The department has found that with some serious offenses, suspects either come from outside of Beacon or may be residents but leaving the area after the crime has occurred. To help address the concern, we have requested funding in the department's 2023 budget for 4 flock safety cameras to be used at the 4 entrances/exits of the city. This has the potential to save many investigative hours, which are vitally important for making quick progress on complicated investigations in our small detective bureau. This system can let us know the direction in which an involved vehicle left the city, or help to determine if such never left Beacon at all. This is an important initiative to help our department better ensure the safety of our residents and to investigate serious crimes that are committed in our community. So basically how they would work, if we have a suspect vehicle, we can actually program the cameras that this is the vehicle we're looking for. I mean, obviously the more information we have, the less hits we'll get, right? If we have a plate number, that's great, but we might just have a description of a vehicle, and then we can put that in, and then when a vehicle fit in that description goes by the cameras, it could alert our phones that that vehicle just either entered or left the city at that time. And that can help us, when we get a violent crime and get a vehicle description, help us to determine if the vehicle's left the city or if it's even still in the city. That can save us a lot of time. Right now, if they leave the city, we don't, if we're trying to play a guessing game which direction they want, and we can, we're reaching out, we can reach out down by Cold Spring, they have an LPR, reach out to the Bridge Authority. But if we know where they went, what direction they went in the first place, it can save us some time, because we reach out to the Bridge Authority. They're great to work with, but there's a lot of cameras on that bridges, and it's a little time consuming if they haven't gone that way. We're looking for a vehicle that never went there. So this would save us some time. And it also allows us to work with other agencies that have this system. Right now, the City of Poughkeepsie, City of Middletown, and Village of Goshen have this system in place. And next year, the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office, the town of Hyde Park, the town of Poughkeepsie, and the town of East Fishkill Police, we're looking to go to these cameras. So the way it works, you get a written agreement with them, and it allows us to share information back and forth between the departments. So, any questions about the
the flock safety technology. So these cameras kind of operate as a network, and is that separate from the network of cameras, say, we already have on Main Street? So for
Correct.
example, if you put in the license plate, does it start looking on Main Street as well?
Correct, yeah, our cameras on Main Street don't have the capability of putting in a plate, and it tells us. The cameras on Main Street, basically, we have to go to each camera individually and look to see if the vehicle's there, but those cameras don't have the capability of telling us that a vehicle with that description is going by, or that plate number is going by. And actually, a lot of times, the cameras on Main Street aren't getting plate numbers, so.
Are there currently cameras at the entrances and exits of the city of Beacon?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Sorry, are there currently cameras at the entrances or exits of the city of Beacon, or are you looking to
No,
install
right now,
them?
there's no cameras at the exits or entrances.
Looking at the website of the flock cameras, it looks like they do not use facial recognition technology. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah, there's no facial recognition on that.
And all of the footage would be under the control of the city. It doesn't go through a third party of any kind.
I'm sorry, my hearing is
Yes,
terrible.
that's correct.
Oh,
So
okay.
the city has direct access to download the information and would only use it when we have investigations. And we've had a couple circumstances where the chief's detectives are chasing videos in other towns to try to figure out where a suspect went. And this would just give us a read on the license plate as they enter and exit the city. So we'd know if the car was still here in Beacon. We'd know if they went northward or south. We'd have a better idea when they came, and you could start to put a car at a location for a crime.
Yeah, and the money in the budget is actually for 2023, and it'll cover 2024 also. It also covers the installation. It covers any software upgrades. It covers the allowing of sharing with other departments that have this, the installation, the maintenance, them showing us, actually how it works when we do have it installed up and running, and the testing of it. So that's what's budgeted for. It should cover the 2023 and 2024.
So we're budgeted for full staff, of which we're 4 short, did you say?
Right now, we're short 4.
5 short.
But you have 2 on late duty right now.
Uh-huh. So those that we haven't hired, we've budgeted for, though, right?
Mhm.
And that money, does that money not spent, does that go directly into contingency?
The money not spent for the salaries for the officers we didn't hire yet. We actually transferred it into overtime earlier this
Okay,
year,
so
a
we didn't-
portion of it.
Right.
Yes.
So does that typically cover all of the overtime, that money, or
No.
there's additional money?
No.
Because it's time and a half? Yep. Yep.
Right, and it's not all just shift coverage.
Mhm.
So basically what we determined was shift coverage. We moved that amount from the salary line this year.
Okay, thanks.
So we have, we've been having conversations about the speed limit on and off for a while. And when I talk to neighbors and folks in Beacon, they kind of always say, yeah, well, lower speed limit's a good idea, but we need more enforcement. We're always talking about enforcing speed limits, and, you and I have talked about it a couple times too, about places we could focus and stuff. But I was wondering if we could add to the budget some of these radar, these speed, I don't know what they're called.
The signs?
Or the radar signs?
Right,
where
that say
they-
you're going this speed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we need one that like dispenses tickets, but I think, Justice, you mentioned one that had like a smiley face and a sad face.
Yeah, so that one in particular relies on social conditioning, and studies have shown that with that particular sign, like, people are more likely to slow down to not get a frowny face than they are
Yeah,
to...
so they use them in Europe pretty widely, and they really work on you. It's in this emoji-centered society. Smiley faces go a long way. I don't know the cost of these machines. If we're saying that maybe there's 4 entrances and exits to the city, maybe we only need 4 of them, so we can clock people when they're entering town, or we can move them around. But perhaps we could look into getting that equipment. Is anybody else interested in this on the council?
Yes.
Makes sense if it proves.
They're expensive.
Oh, I don't know how expensive.
Oh,
No.
Sorry, no, if there is documented proof that the emojis work, yeah, it sounds like it would work.
We have some radar signs, don't we, already, or not?
Right now, we have one smaller sign, and then we have the larger sign on the trailer.
Okay.
Right now, the larger sign on the trailer is out on Fishkill Avenue, just warning people about the construction coming up ahead. And then the smaller sign right now is, last I knew, it was on the charger downstairs. We got to keep bringing it in to charge the battery and get it back out again. So
Wind it up.
lately, it's been on Wilk Street.
So certainly, anyone who's been here for any length of time, the most effective speed limit reduction is what you observe in the village of Cold Spring, right? The squad cars are there, you get your tickets, and you learn really quickly. And I think everybody knows it, right? Certainly the easiest way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
going back to the technology of having the radar units, I don't know that we need 4 because we can move them around, but I'd like to, the one that we have isn't very good. You can only see it from one side. It's not really mobile. It's not on wheels. I'd like to actually invest in something that's good and would last a while. So what I'd propose is to put it in the capital budget when we put that in May. That gives us time to price it out, figure out what we're exactly looking for, and get some data back. Because I don't even know what number to put in the budget for that. And we'd kind of be, I don't think it would be the closest estimation. You know, I think we need to figure out what we need and how many, and talk to the
There's a wide
department.
range on that, too. You can get solar, you can get, where you don't have to bring it in all the time and charge the batteries and leave it out there. But we can do some research on that and get some prices.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to the cap on our budget this year, so, and I think that delta was about $400,000. So, I'd be glad to help with the pricing of these things if it's just like the amount of time that it takes to price them out. I think it would be important to have it in the budget where we know that there's possibly money that we can use, and then we don't have to wait. That would be my preference.
Yeah, and we can look at some pricing. That won't be a problem.
And I just say that because we'll get to May, and that's 6 or 7 months from now, and then we're not even sure if it'll be in the first year of the capital plan, and it could go down the road a little bit. So I'm kind of eager for this. It's something that I've been thinking about for a while. As you know, we've talked about.
Sure.
We'll get some costs.
Yeah, and let me know if you need help, because I know it is a haul. I've done pricing before.
Well, that's why they make lieutenants. They do a lot of research.
Would it be possible to just use our existing ones for a while first? Just
What was
to-
that?
We only have one speed one. The other
Yeah.
one is a variable message sign, but it doesn't do speed as far as I'm
I
aware.
believe that does have speed on it also.
Okay, so let's just check that.
Yeah, because let's just, let's certainly use the ones we have first, and then if
Right.
we think, we need to go further, and then we can do that.
We did deploy it to Wilk Street. I met with the neighbors over there about recurring speed issues. We have gone up a lot in traffic enforcement. Can you give the
We
numbers?
wrote over 800 tickets this year so far, so.
Say it again,
We
please.
wrote over 800 tickets this year so far.
Is that up from previous years?
Well, definitely up from COVID years, because in COVID, it was just the opposite approach. We were trying not to be proactive, trying not to have too much interaction unless it was necessary with the public so we weren't exposed nor exposing the public to us, right? So there was a lot of proactive work was cut back during COVID. And if you go back to 2019, pre-COVID, we're probably right on course to what we did in 2019.
And in addition to tickets, there's other traffic stops that are warnings. Like when we put new stop signs in, they pulled over dozens of people who missed that new stop sign and gave warnings before we ticketed. So
Yeah.
I'm hopeful. I know that people are slowing down at Wilkes. There's already been, and it's a problem that moves around the city.
Right.
And a sign that moves around the city.
Well, we'll move the sign.
Yeah.
And the officers.
Yeah, we have to do it with the manpower we have, and obviously calls for service take a priority, so that has to, be our priority. And then when we're not handling calls for service or doing the paperwork on that afterwards, then we do vehicle and traffic enforcement. We try to do some walking posts. We we try to get in some of the neighborhoods and patrol. So we got to juggle that around. And some places like 90, Fishkill Avenue, Washington Avenue, DePleister Avenue, they're always going to be a concern. And then sometimes we'll get complaints in areas like Wilk Street or Dutchess Terrace or things like that, where we
Sergeant.
try to focus on those for a little while, and hopefully it slows things down for a little bit.
know we haven't heard from any of these committees in a while, but are there any changes in the budget that reflect suggestions from the EO 203 or the Police Reform Committee?
The Youth Academy is in there, which is actually the advisory committee police advisory committee was asking for us to put that in there. And we actually ran the Youth Academy this year, and a lot of times that's been getting done basically asking people for money, right? We've been getting donations to run that. And the advisory committee was kind of adamant, like, well, you know, why do we have to rely on that? Can't we just budget that? So we put $4,000 in the budget for that. Most of that would go to pay for busing, because it involves some of the week involves field trips. We brought the kids to Westchester County Police Department, to the State Police Aviation Unit, City of Newburgh courtroom. We bring some of that's on field trips, because we just don't want the kids sitting in a classroom all day. And they do some classroom stuff. They see different people within the law enforcement agency. We had an FBI agent come in, a DA investigator. Lashavius, our behavioral health specialist, gave a presentation to him to see what he does with us. And we tried to, did his canine demonstration. We try to mix it up. And also, they're teenagers. We give them lunch every day, and teenagers eat a lot.
And what exactly is the purpose of this police?
It's been great interaction with us and the teenagers that take part. It's for kids through 9 through 12, grade 9 through 12. And the first classes we did are just coming of age, where if they're interested in the criminal justice field, they're starting to come of age for that. Our dispatcher is actually a graduate from this, and we're doing a background right now. If everything finishes up good, that person, he's also a graduate from the Police Youth Academy. And it's just to show them a little bit about the criminal justice field. It builds up a great bond with the officers and the kids involved. And then we just show them different things about it, and if they're interested, they go. We do a practice civil service test with them. We show them what the physical fitness test is about, and it's the kids and the officers seem to have a great week, and that bond seems to stay for a long time.
So we haven't heard from the Police Advisory Committee since the report that was due in April of 2021. I believe this this academy was in it. But have you seen updated recommendations from the committee?
No, I know they stopped meeting over the summer, and we had one meeting in September, and there's another meeting they're trying to get together in November.
So I think the council is supposed to review the recommendations of the committee and then vote to determine which ones we're going to proceed with. So I'm inclined to, if we don't find money for the radar meters, to take it from this spot possibly. The only way I can really see keeping this in is we're doing an academy for only one part of the city government. So if we were doing it for the city government, I'd want to know that we were doing one for the fire department. I don't know if rec department makes sense, but maybe look around the city and see what other kinds of academies we want to do, so that we're not just pushing one career path and we're pushing multiple career paths from the city.
Yeah, I know in the past there's been one for the police and fire in the past. They obviously came to a halt with COVID, right? We couldn't run any police youth academies.
Mm-hmm. And we run in the rec department. We have the Green Teen program, sure, yeah. which is much more robust than this program.
Yeah, this was the first one
all summer, and
this is the first one we ran since COVID. We were doing them before COVID.
On committee, I think Lieutenant Figlia drafted something, submitted it, and it's just been sitting in my office waiting for an edit. I think we're about to see that revised, but it seemed like it was covering the bases. We just were trying to get it organized. So that's that piece. And again, it's just been sitting in my office for a while, and someone has to get to it, so we will. And then, we run the equivalents. We run one for fire, one for police. We run the Green Teens. Those are the ones we do. We don't do one for highway department. I guess we could.
But we do take summer help, and that often is a way that they identify future motor equipment operators.
Yeah,
so
we
we've
certainly
gotten
did this year.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify, do we fund the fire academy as well? And I don't think we give money to Green Teens, and that program is not to become an employee of the city. That program has broader
We did
curriculum.
fund Green Teen in
Through the community block grant, not as a regular, but
through the
budget
community investment grant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And we have hired off of Green Teen. So it is, again, we look at pipelines to try to figure out how we get people to be interested in all parts of public service. And again, we found that these academies give students that might normally not think about a career with policing or fire. Again, if you don't have that in your family, you've not been exposed to it. So in trying to diversify our ranks, these academies actually offer a chance to say, hey, you can try this out and kind of get an idea what it's like.
I was looking for speeding tickets on the revenue side, and I couldn't find that. Is that here somewhere?
Yes, that is under parking tickets.
Oh, it's with parking tickets?
Yes.
Okay, I was just looking for those 800. Okay, got it.
So there's an expense for the processing of the parking.
I saw that.
And then there's a associated revenue.
Okay, so that set 174,000 is parking and speeding tickets.
I have 63,000 for parking tickets.
Oh, I was
on the revenue side.
I was giving the number.
Oh, yes, it's 174,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm just looking at the numbers here. The story is that we projected to get 120,000. We only got 35. It'll probably go up a little more during the holidays, and then next year we hope to do 63. Was like 120 an unattainable number? Was it related to staffing, or?
I'll let Sans answer that. However, the 2023 projection is based on the 22 actual year.
Right.
And if that does increase, the parking expense increase would be a little bit, but I wanted to be conservative. But as for the actual tickets, I'll let Sans answer that.
Yeah, no, like I said, tickets are up now. A lot of it was down due to COVID. And even all tickets parking or moving violations were down. I know I got to work quite quickly during COVID because there was nobody on the road in front of me, right? So there wasn't a lot of traffic. There wasn't a lot. Main street businesses were closed down. So a lot of the parking problems and traffic problems weren't around during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're open for business again and we have the parking problems, traffic problems coming back in, I'd like to see that revenue pick up. Actually, I'd like to see nobody do anything wrong and the revenue isn't there. But
That's what's the Dutchess County? I assume it's Dutchess County Drug Task Force. What's that revenue for?
It's actually a grant we receive for one of our officers that participates in the program.
Okay, got it.
And I know there was an email sent out just to answer some questions on that. There was a question about the school crossing guards. And we have 8 posts, and over the summer we've been able to hire enough people to fill all 8 posts and have 2 backups. So that should help us out because when we didn't have those filled, either the highway department or us were filling some of those posts. So like I said, we have 8 positions. The 8 positions are filled with 2 backups. There was a question about the burn grant on here because now there's nothing in it. The burn grant was basically a federal grant that was to buy equipment. We kept putting money there. It was a thing at one time. There's nothing else on it now. I don't even think the burn grant is around.
So last year it was just a blanket for equipment. This year it's specifically for vests. They will cover 50% of our vests in the burn grant.
Yeah, but this is under body armor.
Yes.
Body armor.
Well, so the expense is under body armor rather than under equipment, and the revenue is under the burn JAG grant, and it's 50%.
Yeah. And there was a question about case management, which is 452021, and that is our contract with Mental Health America and having Lashavius working with us as a behavioral health specialist. That program's been doing very well. And actually, we've become a model for other agencies. Us and Sid Poughkeepsie have had it. The Dutchess County Sheriff's Office, the town of East Fishkill, and the town of Howard Park are all talking about going to it next year. They've met with me, they've met with Mental Health America. LaShavis is going to interviews with them to talk about the program. Actually, myself and LaShavis went to the Conference of Mayors earlier this year and talked about the program up there with different mayors from around the country. And it seems to be picking up, and hopefully it spreads to the other agencies and they absorb this and get the program going in their departments. And I think the retirement was another question.
Right, there was a question about why there's not an amount in the 22 budget at this point for retirement. The payment for retirement is made in December of each year. It's actually prepayment for the following year. So the 22 actual is really on a cash basis, what you see here. And so I wouldn't accrue the amount. If it's spread over another year, there would be an accrual. So the retirement amount of $1 million will be, it's actually December 15th. We have to make the wire transfers for both ERS and PFRS. Is there any other email questions?
Okay. No, that was the only email. So unless anybody else have any questions?
I just wanted to clarify with the Criminal Justice Academy. Do you ever also speak to lawyers or the judge or other aspects of the justice system?
It mixes up a little bit each year, but there has they have spoken to a judge, they have spoken to a defense attorney. That we try to mix it up as best we can. And obviously, we have a block week, and then we have to get people who are available to help us out that week. So they do try to mix that up, and they have done that in the past. And this year, they went to City of Newburgh Courthouse to watch how things were working over there one morning.
And I did want to clarify, do we fund the Fire Academy program? Okay,
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question about the firearms line of the budget. I saw that there was an increase from 36.5 thousand to 41,000. What's the?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just the rising cost of everything. We're not doing anything different than we do this year. We're meeting all the training requirements that we get through New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, New York State accreditation, and there's case law that also dictates what we do. And it's really just compensating for increases in whether it's ammunition, firearms parts. We do cleaning supplies, targets, purchasing hearing protection, eye protection. Just the cost of things rising. There's no additional things we're adding to it. It's just the rising cost of things right now.
Why is why is that? I mean, why is there so much money budgeted for firearms to begin with on like a yearly basis?
Yeah, well, we do 2 8-hour blocks of firearms training every year, and we do 2 8-hour blocks of patrol rifle training. Not everybody has a patrol rifle assigned to them. And then in that incorporates shoot, don't shoot drills and shoot rates. Right now we're doing the night shoot because that's just covered in case law because most police-involved shootings are done at night, and if you don't train at night, that's it just comes back, and there's case laws mandating that. We do shooting and moving, shooting from behind from behind a barricade. It's just different things required through DCJS and case law to that we incorporate that. So when they're shooting a lot. When they go to the range, there's a lot of rounds that are fired at the range.
So these are bullets, the firearms line?
Yeah, yes.
So it's not like the purchase of new guns every year?
No, they don't get a new gun every year.
For the new officers. So
new officers
you have 2 new officers,
right.
And they'll get issued weapons when they join the force.
Right.
So the one who's at academy already has one. The other will get it when it comes on.
And I gather part of your accreditation, which we're one of the few departments that has that, has requirements with respect to all training programs.
Correct, right. And like I said, there's New York State accreditation, there's New York Division of Criminal Justice Services, and there's case law that mandates all the training that we're doing.
Yeah, I just wanted to add an anecdote, which was I was walking Main Street on Saturday and saw two of the officers out walking, and I was really pleased because they were part of the regular shift, right? So it wasn't an overtime situation, right? They parked their cars nearby and they walk a couple blocks, and I thought that's just excellent, right? Because our history, and you've been around long enough to know our history, is it used to be a source of overtime, whether it was a bike or walking on the street.
Right. Now, I encourage when they're working, when they have time to get out and, get out on Main Street, get out down the apartment complexes,
Yep.
And talk to people. It's just good that we're having interaction with people and it's not on a call.
And
We're not going there and people are already upset. We can just walk up and say hello and have a conversation.
Yeah, it was great, and I gather it's also because we have dispatch sitting in the office, so it makes it easier to have someone sitting out in the
It
street.
does. That one more body means a lot when you have a small job. One more body means an awful lot. And
Well, it was just good to see.
I got to compliment my officers. I really got a good crew down there. Their work ethic is very good. I don't have any bullies. I don't have anybody trying to prove anything. I think if they could come to work and not have a problem all day, it would right. It would be a blessing, right? That's just to keep that up. So the work ethic downstairs, I think, is very good, and my officers, I think, do a really good job out there on the street. And even when they're dealing with people upset, they've been doing a really good job with de-escalation and everything. And they do a good job with our mental health, our behavioral health specialists. He's here 40 hours a week, but he follows up on things that happen overnight on weekends, and they're good at, talking with him and relaying information to him, whether it's through email or notes or talking to him in person. And I think it's been good. I think having the behavioral health specialist has been good. I think it added something to the department this is another approach to things.
Are you feeling good about the Mental Health America's level of staffing with just LaShavius at core hours?
Yep, myself, and I don't make this decision myself. I talk to LaShavius, I talk to his boss, and just looking at the workload, we just having two behavioral health specialists, I don't know if we have the workload to justify the expense. So, LaShavius is, I think we definitely having one full-time behavioral health specialist is good for this city. And he spends a lot of time following up and trying to get people help, and obviously not everybody says he has to help right away, right? But I don't think we can justify two, and I don't think Mental Health America, well, they agree with me. They don't believe it justifies a second person here either.
So there's more volume during the day than at night? The calls that are pertinent for
Call volume is more during the day than at night. I mean, at night when you get calls, they tend to be, worse. But the call volume is definitely heavy during the day. Also, too, everybody who LaShavius has to link people with works Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, right? So whether he's dealing with social services or other people in the mental health field, that's when he can make most of his contacts.
Yeah.
And he's good at following up. So if we deal with somebody 8 o'clock tonight, and LaShavius comes in tomorrow morning, and someone left him, plus he has access to our cases and our blotters and our arrest reports, so he has access to read everything. So in case some officer didn't make a recommendation to him and he saw something, he could follow up on his own and try to get in touch with the person.
And when LaShavius is out of the office for sick or annual leave or whatever, the Mental Health of America doesn't provide another person in his place for those days, right?
No, they don't, no. When he comes back, we follow up. But another thing with Mental Health America, with their expansion, they actually asked if we can be a site for them to field train also. So when they get people who are going to work with other agencies, to have them come down here and work with LaShavius and us and spend some time on the street with us to see what LaShavius is doing and how things work in here. So that was a nice compliment that they offered that to us. They considered us for that.
And they've got a local office right down here, don't they?
They do
on Fishkill Avenue.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had one small clarification where we keep talking about the police assistant. That is the same position that we sometimes call the civilian dispatcher. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I know I kind of switch back and forth.
Just
I've
to
been here for
clarify for the
39
public.
years. Years ago, they were called civilian dispatchers. Now they're called police assistants.
And that's a civil service term, but they would call themselves a dispatcher. But under civil service, they're a police assistant.
Got it.
Chris, I think you mentioned this last meeting. But just to clarify, there's no reimbursement for film in 2021. So there's no income for the film overtime.
We didn't put any in the budget. We did have actual, though, that came
Okay.
in.
Okay.
And that we paid that line for. So we track, if there's a film, we let them know what the cost is going to be up front. They have to agree to pay for it in order to get the permit. And then that's tracked by finance, so it goes back against the line. So there's a different expense line, I believe, right, Sue? We did that?
There is a different expense line for films, so if some officers were assigned to a film, it would go through payroll, a charge to that line. When we receive the reimbursement for that, we're now breaking it up, and the piece that's just police overtime of the film goes to one line, which is the police event overtime for films, and the other piece is up a little bit higher, and that would be the overhead for films. So Chris wanted to separate those two out so we could track that separately.
But we didn't in 2021, so that income doesn't show.
We didn't budget it for 2021, but we did receive some film revenue.
Okay.
I think it's,
Yeah, we did pretty well, actually.
I remember you
We made a
saying
profit.
that. I remember you saying that, and I was just worried that they owe us, you know.
No. And on things like the festivals, the for-profit festivals, which we're kind of moving away from, when we've done those too, they pay the full cost of overtime with fringe, with a little overhead.
so in 2021, it was up in A13252770008 called film permits, and in 2021 the revenue, which included police overtime at the time, was $118,000.
But our net was lower. We made it,
Yeah.
we had a surplus in the city's favor, but it was much less than that.
Right.
I had a question about the K-9 unit. I recall a couple years ago a conversation about there was an officer who had been with this unit for a long time, but was maybe going to be retiring soon, and we wanted to extend the program because it had been helpful in the past, but that we would maybe, the city might reevaluate the program after this officer retired. Is that still the idea?
Yeah, the K-9 officer is actually one of the officers that is retiring next year.
Okay.
And when he retires, the dog will retire with him. He can retire in September, and he was unsure whether he's actually leaving in September or staying until the end of the year. So, but that's the officer that's retiring.
And we have no plan of backfilling the K-9.
Okay. And I did notice that the veterinary services budget increased a bit next year. Is the dog just getting older, or?
Yeah, the K-9 dogs have I mean, they can live to be 15 years old, but they're not going to work till they're 15 years old. And just when the officer is coming of age to retire himself, the dog is also coming of age to around the same time.
Got it.
Rising costs.
Yeah, that too. Thank you.
Okay.
Set.
Thank you.
Oh, I just have a
All
quick
right,
question.
please.
Just a clarification. What's the traffic lights budget line?
That is the cameras for the street, the traffic lights, the red,
Is
yellow,
that
green
just
lights.
the cost to operate them?
Yes, it's actual electric that goes to the traffic lights.
Hmm.
And traffic lights are considered public safety, and they go in the police line.
Under revenue, you have donations is dotations.
All right.
And I only mention that because Justice always catches the typos, and I just happened to see that one.
Okay.
I was just going to send you an email, but.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right,
everybody.
thank you.
Thanks.
Chief. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, we have Chief Gary Van Voris. doing his fire budget presentation. And while Gary's getting ready, I'm going to just take a moment to honor Gary because he retired this year after 8 years with the city and a long career in fire medics, and he has come back part-time to work with us until we hire a new fire chief. And we are working on that diligently, but we're awfully glad that Gary's still here.
Thank you, Chris. It was 9 years.
9 years.
And I've been in the fire service 45, so it's time to slow down a little here.
Gary wants to work in finance. He told me. He did. Just last week, he told a vendor he was not going to pay their upcharge, and they acquiesced.
They honored it.
Yes.
$1,200.
Yep.
We saved. So anyway, thank you very much for the evening tonight. I'll just highlight through here. I don't have to read everything about the fire department, like the police department, we're public servants to the city. And our mission is out to protect lives, property, and respond to fires, natural disasters, emergencies, and accidents. And there's a long list of other things that we do. I mean, when somebody's in trouble, they call 911, either the police, fire, or the ambulance. We're all going to that. And with that, it's typical with responses over 1,900 in 2021. We're on a course to be close to that again. And a lot of it has to do with the EMS calls, but also when you have a city of 5 square miles and we build more buildings, different things, and you put a stove in every apartment or something like that, we're not talking anything crucial, hopefully doesn't happen, but things happen, everything now with code enforcement's in our favor. You have smoke detectors, you know how easy they go off. Someone has to answer every one of those calls and mitigate that. So I predict our calls volumes will go up on that. Something that I'm really happy about this year, it's on the bottom, there's the book Fire Prevention Education. We've already gone out and reached out, and over 900 from preschoolers to elementary schools, fire prevention, safety presentation that COVID took away from us. You can even see in my budget for a couple of years I didn't buy any fire prevention items, and I'm happy to say the crews they like it. The little picture there, you can see that. And it's interesting from how we interact with the preschoolers, and then when we get to the 3rd, 5th graders, they've been there. They throw some great questions out there on that. Our staffing, we're trying to budget for an extra person to 17 career firefighters. I'm happy to say this year, now we have, like right now, there's a lieutenant on duty all the time. There's 4 firefighters on duty. One of them is an officer. I mean, they went to the waste treatment plant while I've been here. You know, unless it's, you know, really bad incident, I monitor it on my phone and different things. They're taking care of that situation. With that, which adds later on to cost, they go to 4 weeks to New York City to a fire officer's class that's paid by the state of New York that whole time that they're down there. And we do have to we have to pay for overtime for that situation. They pay for transportation, everything. So 2 out of the 4, there's a big list. It's usually New York City guys get it first, but I've been kind of pushy. Sue knows. I got 2 last year, and I have scheduled 2 this year, one for February, one for April. So then we'll be up to code by New York State, the requirements that an officer needs to have on that. So with that, we talk about some things to help out. EMTs, to be an EMT, which is a big demand out there, and they don't. But if a volunteer firefighter wants to be an EMT, and we have a female firefighter right now in a class, they pass the class. We, meaning the city, we pay for the class. It's like $700. To send them to be a volunteer, to send them to be an EMT on that. Some highlights of 2022, I mean, it's a really exciting. I mean, we have the top-notch transport EMS system in Dutchess County. In other cities admit it, especially chiefs that know what's going on down here. We have advanced life support. We have a paramedic on duty 24/7 that's designated only to the city. We have and then we have BLS, Beacon Volunteer Ambulance Corps here, and then we're also going with each of our firefighters are all EMT firefighters on that. So we're very fortunate with that. Of course, we all know about the fire station that we're working on, and there were some questions about budgeting items for that. We may get in some little things later, like soft cost things, maybe furniture, something like that, but that won't be till 2024. We'll know well into the fall of next year if we're going to have to buy some different items, this and that, but I pretty much think we got them covered. I mean, I am working with an architect like every other day, from even where the light switches go in the firehouse to IT, speakers, the alarm system, everything. So we hope that's all going to get covered.
And we have $350,000 in the capital project to cover furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So
Right, 'cause there was-
so the things like the commercial-sized dryer and washer for decontamination, that's in the budget that we already passed for the capital program.
And with that, just going back there, there's some things that are going to be auctioned to, like the generator that's over there. Yeah, it's 30 years old, but someone will buy that. And about 4 years ago, there was 2 new boilers put in Tompkins Hose. We'll auction them off. The city will get some money back from that. The volunteers have been doing a great job at Lewis Tompkins Hose, and it's hard for them. Over 100 years of items they have in there. They are moving stuff out for our January 1 date to shut the firehouse down for hazmat mitigation on that. So they're doing a great job with that. I'll talk about the Fire Academy. So we actually started the Fire Academy, and then the police jumped in. We did it the week before, a week after. But I did it, sorry, Chief, a little different. Did the city help us? A little bit, in a sense. Maybe that's why Susan wants me. I used other outside agencies, like the state fire marshals. I had them come in. Their resources would come in, set up a smokehouse. They have an extinguisher system. We use an extinguisher to go put a fire out. Newburgh firefighters would bring their boat over. We'd get them all on the boat, go down to Bannerman's Island, this and that. The sheriff department had an arson dog would bring that. BVAC taught CPR to them. That's all at no cost. What happened with COVID and what happened this year was there wasn't enough applicants to really have a fair class, but I also got the state fire marshal said, we don't have manpower to do it. I had Newburgh said, we're not going to pay overtime. You know, they didn't have overtime to man their 2 guys with the boat to come over. But we used to do meals, I think, our local communities, like Brothers and Sal's. One day we'd have pizza. The Elks Club donated money to buy their T-shirts, so I just kind of went out and solicited a little bit to get help from different people. My wife was there many days, because we had females there. If we had a big fire, I had to leave, you know, so we made sure they covered. The union would cook for them lunch one day right there at the fire, outside the firehouse here. But I brought in, we talked about not just being a firefighter. I was opening their eyes up to other avenues. I had the Red Cross come here and talked about disasters one day for about an hour. I let BVAC talk about, well, we had Mobile Life come in with their ambulance, show them what a real trauma rig is. We had that too, and so we had, and we had the sheriff's department come in with the dog. So we told them there's other avenues to go in besides being a firefighter with that class. We did get a couple volunteers, you know, short time, then they moved on to other departments, this and that. We do have a volunteer right now, was actually from the very first class. He joined the New Beacon Volunteer Fire Department. So that's the answer about the money. So the city didn't really pay much. Like I'd have to something to spend, like we'd go to the Air Guard, which they could look at military firefighters. We went to the station over there. We would go and have to rent a school bus for something like that. On the way back, we stopped at McDonald's, Newburgh, and Lewis Tompkins Hose, bought lunch for everybody. Volunteers that did that, so I kind of solicited everybody on that deal. Excited about the creation of a new firefighter position. Of course, every department, we don't like to say overtime, overtime, overtime. So we're trying to get an extra person. It's kind of, we call them like a floater. I've checked other departments, how they do it with different things. We hire hour for hour, fireman for fireman. There's 4 guys on a day. When one's off, if they're off 12 hours, we have to hire 12 hours. We're almost hiring, we probably are hiring every day. It could be maybe just 12 hours. January, February, not so much, but with accrued time off. But this year, overtime, well, first I'll go back to this person. This person's going to fill in for extended periods when we know. This year was the most unhealthy year for the fire department in 9 years, with 2 duty injuries, you know, not severe, but I mean, one was actually a slip, I don't know if I can tell, a slip on our floor up there, which the new floors will have some anti-slip, it's smooth as this table. A young man hurt his knee. So with that, if we had this extra person, we could jump that person on someone that's off for 2 months, something like that, and fill in that day, so we don't have to hire. And also, we had some, not as bad as before, but we did have people off on COVID, and then you have your normal sick leave. But I mean, if someone breaks their arm, leg, that's 6 weeks off. They can't be a firefighter, come in. That's where we can utilize this person. Also, with having a person, a floater person, like early this year, I had to pay overtime for 6 months for one person because Mike Merritt had retired. There's only academies spring and fall. So we already missed the fall one, okay? So I'm already putting a name, you know, a John Doe in for maybe for someone next year to hold it, a class. So if we had this person already on board, say someone retired or left, we could put that person on that shift right away, and we would not have to hire every day for that person that's off. It would fill in for that. Of course, every year I ask for 4 extra guys, so I'd be happy to get one. Let's take some baby step first on that. So we're exciting that happens and goes through. Just a couple other things, and I'll leave it to you. We're looking forward to also coordinate with the building department. So right now, our firemen, we go out with the construction in the city, and all the vendors are very good. When they're building a building, we go right from there, putting the foundation in. We'll go a couple months later, before the drywall's in. We're on a facility tours in service. We go through the buildings and look at them. But we're really looking to help the building department, and career firefighters did this before in the past. They're going to help. They would go out and do the basic safety inspections, and then work together with the building department, under the building department, for any code violations on that. So that's pretty much of overall on that. I don't predict anybody's going to be retiring, but our biggest thing is retention of firemen. We have a very young fire department, like the police department too, and there's, you know, they're single, they don't have a commitment here, they'll go someplace, and that makes us short-handed, and we don't usually have a big notice on that when someone's leaving or going some other place. So we're hoping with the contract, they had a 5-year contract, 1 year's going now. We did that. We're going to get a new station. We have lieutenants, and hopefully that's a big retention point to keep.
384E.
Right. So they have a retirement plan that most departments don't have. Before, in the state of New York, civil service, Dutch County here, you were on 20 years, you get 50%. So I had guys get on 20 years and leave and go do another job someplace. Good people. And many other departments have the same thing. So now we have more of an incentive where the longer you stay, the bigger percent you can get to retire. That was in the new contract.
Questions?
So as part of, with Gary's overtime too, his overtime number estimate, that's just for shift coverage for vacation, personal leaves, and holidays. So, which amounts to 6,152 hours. So he, across 16 people. So what he was saying there is that each position has to be covered by another firefighter. So that's why we want to add in that floater and cover some of those 6,000 plus hours, not to mention an injury.
So let me just, so we're adding staff and increasing the overtime budget.
We're increasing the overtime budget because we would have to implement this. He's estimating this based on 16 firefighters with their time off. This doesn't include any injuries. Mm-hmm. So if we were to go forth with this budget, it'd be December. By the time we get somebody in the academy and hire someone and get them on shift, we're going to be in September.
Got it.
So
we're just trying to plan ahead, like how do we bend the cost curve on overtime in the future? Mm-hmm. It is going to take a while, just like hiring up on the police shifts that we don't have.
And I would certainly love to be, only spend 80% of the budget. That'd be great.
Somebody did ask by email about Kelly Days, and I'll just give a quick intro on Kelly Days. It's a little bit of a misnomer. If you look up Kelly Days, it's a very specific thing that started in the 70s. This is a term of art that ended up in our contract, and it really essentially talks to the 104 hours per year that firefighters work, but they don't get paid for. Essentially, every week, they average 2 hours, because of their 24-hour shifts, they end up working an extra 4 hours every 2 weeks. because they rotate through on these 24-hour shifts. So what this did is when we negotiated the contract, it started to pay them for 25% of those hours, 50%, 75%, and then in 2025, 100%. So you'll see this number went up from last year when we were at a quarter, now we're at a half. Next year we go to 3/4, and then the final year we go to 104. And then it will stay the same except for salary increases. So that's a Kelly day. Or Kelly hour. We use them interchangeably.
So it sounds like, to go back to the Fire Academy, it sounds like a really awesome program, and you put a lot of your own volunteer time and your wife's volunteer time into making it happen. In terms of it continuing and maybe happening next year, would a budget line item help with that, or is it really just a matter of the new chief wanting to put in the time?
And both. But we don't. I don't think I need a line item budget for that, because say one day I'm really stuck on, maybe we do auto extrication where we got the cars up to, maybe we hire back somebody. I could take that out of training money. It'd be a minimum amount.
Got it. You're very thrifty.
Gary is very thrifty.
Gary's coming with me when I buy my next car.
If you ever want to buy a fire truck, go to Gary.
It's true.
And if you want to sell one, right?
Excuse me?
Didn't you sell one of our old fire trucks?
Yes. We did
Yeah,
very
you
well
got
on
a
that.
deal, too.
Yeah.
Glad you're still here, Gary.
Thank you.
Anything else? So I have a long-range comment. You've been here 10 years?
9 years in August.
So I don't know if you recall, but I was a private citizen when there was a proposal to hire a full-time chief, and I was not supportive because we were doing a fair number of tax increases, and my 2 cents was to find ways to, keep that low. I came back on council, I think, a year after that, and my experience has been that the professional chief position has been incredibly important, and you've done an exceptional job at it.
I appreciate that.
And it definitely has benefited from that. It makes a difference to have the full-time person as opposed to the volunteer. The level of professionalism of the budget and the conversations is markedly improved, and I just want to point that out.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
Good job, Gary.
Thanks, Susan.
Thanks.
Next up, we have Mark Price, our Director of Recreation.
Swore he said he retired.
And Mayor, before I forget, I do want to add an executive session at the end. Nick emailed me about something that we have to do.
Okay.
Thanks.
Molly's not here to make the motion. I'll have to look to.
We'll
one of
work
you
on
to-
it.
Okay. Get ready.
All right, Susan said we had to be done by 9 o'clock, so I'll run through this stuff. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us in tonight, and you guys have a printout that I put together for this year's budget, and in essence, I'll give an overview. If you don't know what our department does, we're the Recreation Department, and responsible for programming within our parks throughout the school year. Summer months, we run a public pool. We're a department of 4 full-time, 1 part-time cleaner, and everyone else we hire seasonally, whether it's after-school staff at 3 locations or our summer programming. And there's sometimes consultants, sometimes employees. So, we do our best with what we have. I can't speak enough to, and you'll probably see it throughout what I've sort of drawn up for you, sort of the partnerships and relationships within our department. So, in no way in any of this report am I trying to take credit for anyone else's hard work and dedication. But, you know, there is quite a bit we do to synergize or support other organizations, other groups, whether it's youth sports, civic organizations, community organizations, farming groups, you know, the kind of list goes on. You know, if somebody calls the rec center and needs a place to do something and the calendar allows, we make the space available. If there's some public benefit to what they're doing, then I want to make sure they are supported in some way, shape, or form. You know, and that kind of goes through everything. Chris had made mention of the Green Team program, which is a Cornell Cooperative Extension Dutchess County program that rents off the space in our building, but is integral to what we do over there. More teens and now middle schoolers come through that building now that, you know, they're running a club program for younger kids to sort of, you know, excite them about the potential of being participating in Green Teen. So it's a work-study program. It teaches kids about having a job and you know, maybe they get interested in the you know, sort of growing or farming fields or not. You know, at least at the very least they walk away with some principles, you know, for employment. We did the same with our CIT program in a very simple way, but you know, we have a you know, a bunch of middle school or a little bit older kids that come to work with us at the camp setting, and they may, you know, get the spark to be a camp counselor, or you know, we hope they stick around because we'll have them for 3 or 4 or 5 years and they understand what we do, and you know, at the very least there's some life skills learned there, and you know, the same thing could be said about lifeguards or any of the summer. You know, we work with, you know, sort of teenage and older kids, and this year we sponsored a couple lifeguards. You know, there was a couple of brand new lifeguards that we told if they got their card and worked for us all summer, we'd you know, split the bill with them. A highlight from this year coming up is our hope to run a lifeguard training program, which will use a Dutchess County grant to do so. It'll be free to anyone that wants to participate. So what we use for our swim lessons annually, we're going to try to repurpose into a lifeguard training program, because there is a national shortage, and selfishly, I wouldn't mind having a few more lifeguards around for the summer months. So I know I'm bouncing around a little bit, but you know, we had a pretty good year this year. The budget for '23 reflects basically a baseline of what we typically do with a little expansion. Our hope is to sort of stretch out the after-school program, meaning we want to serve some more kids per site. Our summer programming, we tried a little tot soccer camp this year, and we tried a Spanish language sort of younger kid camp. They were nice little programs, 1-week programs, so we hope to do more stuff like that. Our summer camp will probably operate in a similar, you know, sort of footprint, and we're hoping to put some stuff in and around those 1-week camps, whether it's before, you know, the full camp starts or after the full camp ends. But we're always thinking about, you know, new things to do and how to do them. The pollinator patches were sort of something we implemented this year in partnership with the Green Teen program. Know that pretty much all your city departments had helped in some way, shape, or form with that, whether it was the compost down at the transfer station, or the DPW trucks delivering it, or the sewage treatment plant moving it for us, or helping with, you know, everyone got a little bit excited about all of those. So we have a couple over at the rec center. There was one down at the sewage treatment plant that I personally selected all the seeds for, but it looked great all year. It was it really did you know, sort of change how it looked down there. So and we're identifying spaces for next year. I think Green Teen's feedback was it was fun to do with the kids. They learned a lot more about you know, sort of native species and beneficial bugs and plants, and you know, and it made the city prettier. We also partnered with one down at the waterfront with the CAC. So I guess that's really, oh, and Summer Hoops saw the biggest enrollment in the last several years, and the return of the older age group, which is 18-year-old kids, got to play again this year. And doesn't seem like much, but the younger kids end up hanging around to watch the older kids play, and you know, there's a lot of community down there on nights that ball games are being played. So that group of volunteers, I collect money and I pay for basketballs and shirts, and that's about all I do with the program, besides, you know, support them and completely volunteer, besides the referees, which are community members, but we do pay a small stipend for those. So really a great program. The only other couple of highlights for next year are some capital projects. We are going to fix, Chris and everyone got the sidewalks fixed at South Avenue. I'm going to take it a step further and fix all the retaining walls. It'll really sharpen up that corner. That park will feel sort of finished on that end, probably hopefully some of the fence work, depending on how much that is. We're looking at currently replacing or revising or renewing the Tot Park, which will mean surfacing, playground structures and fencing, so it'll be almost a whole new Tot Park, hopefully, if everything aligns nicely. And then we look forward to seeing the completion of the community report. You know, the survey is still open. As of this morning, we had 908 surveys, so that's getting close to that 1,000 mark that I'm hopeful to achieve. I think it'll feel like a real survey if we can get over 1,000. We have a couple little more outreach things going on, so we've been picking up 50 or 100 a week for the last several weeks, so I think we'll get to 1,000, which is good. So we'll be able to sit with that, you know, the end of this year into next year, hopefully have a better map of where things need to go. You know, sort of the baseline for things this year was to kind of keep up with business as usual, and then, you know, see what this study is going to tell us about where we move forward, you know, with programming or facilities or any or all of that. Unless, of course, you guys just want to build me a new rec center and we can prove that tonight and we're off to the races. But that's about all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
And I do also want to mention, Mark did all of the support services necessary to make the compost program work. We found that there were a lot of gaps in that program, and Mark filled all of them. So thank you.
Yeah, DPW installed the fencing. I had the signs made, and the other backyard ones we actually registered, used our online platform so we could sell them, and they actually lived on our porch for a very long time. I gave away 3 as of last week, the last 3 broken ones that were still totally usable. And it's funny when you make them free, people snatch them right up. Yep.
What specifically justifies the jump for the after-school activity from 15 to 27?
Oh, that's support staff. So in the COVID times, we sort of shrunk our consultants. So our yoga teachers, our karate teachers, our cooking classes, stuff like that. So that goes directly to pay consultants to come in and offer different types of programming, you know, throughout the school year.
Mm-hmm. And you do themes based on the day oftentimes.
Yeah, Mondays Lego Club, Tuesdays cooking, Wednesdays karate, Thursdays Thursday. We try to switch that all up so that's a stipend for somebody with a little more know-how in karate or soccer or whatever to come in. And, and we bumped it up slightly because we weren't seeing as many people raise their hands about coming in. So.
I'm curious about the after-school program arrangement. I mean, just because I've never asked anybody while I've been on council, but is it common for municipalities to do an after-school program versus the school? Do schools typically do after-school programs?
YMCAs do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the schools actually do them themselves.
No, okay.
No, I mean, in my experience, it's either outside providers, you know, for-profit or non-for-profit organizations. For the longest time in Beacon, who used to have our building, the Beacon Community Center, which was their own non-for-profit, ran essentially the programming we did in schools for the better part of 20-plus years. Town of Fishkill runs after-school programming. I think it varies by community, but unless it's a bigger school district with lots of grant money, I don't think you're going to see much after-school programming provided by the districts.
Right. Thanks for that. That's helpful.
As far as coordinating, you did coordinate with the tree committee as well for the nursery, right?
Yeah, we're still working on that. We had planned to implement that this year. We were going to use the SAP DEC sapling sale happens annually, so it's cheap starter stuff. They kind of fumbled my order, so it sort of put us back a little bit. So I'm still talking to them about a potential pilot nursery to see where that can go.
I just hear so much about trees, so I was surprised in the budget to see tree maintenance go down.
In the
cost, in the expenses.
For as far as the settlement camp, the only tree budget I have is the settlement camp. If it's
Maybe I'm just looking at park.
And parks would probably be Mickey.
So we had a
Went
bump
up.
the one year that we had the DEC grant to take down a lot of branches and dead trees at Memorial Park. But you'll see, then it was at 7,600, and we put it up to 8,000.
Okay.
And that's just for park. And then at settlement camp, we've raised that by over $5,000
Right.
since 2021.
There's also $30,000 in the highway department, and mainly that's for main streets, the non-park area.
And Mark has really helped us make sure we get
The right
coordination
trees.
between those
Mhm.
plantings and the tree committee. And you just did 3 or 4 trees by Rite Aid.
Yep, we just did a fall planting of a bunch of birches at the settlement camp, some blueberries at the settlement camp, 3 or 4 trees on the street tree checklist. The tree committee has identified as replacements, so they were barren well, so we put those in, and I think there were some other ones too.
We did the 2 at South Avenue as
South
part of
Avenue,
that
yep.
South
It was-
Avenue sidewalk.
It was a good year for trees this year. I mean, we put a lot in the ground. I was down we set
Red
up
Flynn Drive, we did.
a wholesale nursery account down in Westchester at Hardscrabble, so we get pretty good pricing. Just requires us to run down and get them, but I think we were down there 3 times this year for, I think 14 or 16 different trees went in.
And then Mark makes sure they don't die.
Mhm.
So that's as important as planting them.
I'm trying to find the lifeguard training program in the budget. Is it buried in with some other things?
It'll most likely be under the pool budget, and it'll most likely be the grant monies. Should be under the pool for, on the revenue side, there's generally a grant line.
It says DC Grant Swim Academy, A741238902 for $5,000. That's one.
Yeah, that'll be the revenue side. Generally, we were gonna wait and see. Generally, the,
Oh, I see it now.
the
Thank you.
grant is reported out of salaries, basically to run the swim academy or swim lessons is just lifeguard time and Nate, my assistant director's time. So we basically mark that out of payroll. It's been the easiest way to do that, so.
Got
And if the grant comes through, we've already talked to the high school and, in regards to using the pool over there and doing a tune-up series. What we hope is to find some kids that aren't on the swim team or sort of fish, and might be interested in being lifeguards, and we're going to propose a 5-week sort of get you ready Saturday morning, so kids that may not know necessarily all the strokes or need a little work with that. Nate, our assistant director, is a water sports safety instructor, so he can work with kids that may be just this side of being able to be a lifeguard because of the skill set, and maybe get them ready to, get their cards, so.
Yeah, I really appreciate the proactive thinking here, because I know lifeguards were hard to come by this year.
Yes.
I also noticed under regular salary, the total amount went down by quite a bit. Is that, I know that we aren't losing staff members, so, unless I'm reading this wrong.
No, I think you're reading it right. I'm not clear what that was.
Sorry, it's been a month since I prepared the salary schedule. Let me just take a quick look. I think.
Sorry,
Did we-
what page are we on?
Yeah, page 20 of the packet under.
I think there is a salary left out,
Mhm.
actually. So I think that is
'Cause
an
I
error.
see it going
Yeah.
up.
Mhm.
Regular salaries, 7110
Let me just take a look.
park. I see it going up from 138 to 145.
I'm seeing one that goes from 120
So
to
under
75.
7140 recreation, it went down. I think that's a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
I'll
we're
take a
missing
look at
just
that.
one.
Okay.
Thank you.
And, yeah, it's almost a typo. And then my sort of general question was for you is, I know that I've seen the recreation department like punch way above your weight because you are very good collaborators and you work with a lot of team members. And I know that we're getting ahead a bit of the recreational needs study, and we're going to find out a lot more once that comes through. But I'm curious if you feel like an added staff member would help you accomplish even more.
Yeah, I mean, more hands, more money always is the equation that helps. I don't know how to utilize them right now. I think I feel good right now where we are, what we're doing. I do lean into getting this report back to understand, you know, because they're supposed to make recommendations on all of that stuff. So I would hate to work on a hunch. Our pickle right now is where do I put them? You know what I mean? I don't have room currently for another full-time staff or, you know, part-time. We've often thought about trying to utilize like one of the after-school staffers in a longer capacity, you know, maybe freeing up a little bit of Nate's time, freeing up a little bit of my time. So we're all, you know, we have some sketches on the wall about how we would expand, because we do feel we're on the cusp of some type of expansion. You know, right now it's, you know, making sure there's a few more seats in the after-school program, making sure more people can use the pool, you know, just sort of that broadening of our scope. And again, yeah, at some point we feel, you know, there's probably a need for additional staffers. You know, I just couldn't point to exactly where to put them you know. Love to see what that study says, you know, in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And have you had any luck in reviving the recreation committee, or is that not a priority at the moment?
Not so much. I mean, there was some chat last year about it itself maybe evolving into more of a community and recreation type committee, and I've done some research. There's communities have, you know, something. It feels short to me to just call it recreation, because we all sort of have had this conversation. There's a lot more going on than just, you know, ball sports and stuff that, you know,
Solid waste
traditionally
management.
mean recreation, you know, in this community, you know, so.
Sustainable solid waste.
I believe there's some type of committee, and I think out of the study too, it'll point to a lot of this stuff, I'm hoping, you know what I mean? That's, you know, and it's finding purpose. You know, the thing with the committee over the years was I don't think we had enough purpose to keep people engaged. It was great to sit down and talk about things and talk about things and talk about things. But I think there's, you know, people want to be involved if there's purpose, you know, and I would hesitate to do anything until we have a good, you know, purpose in place, you know, besides some volunteer efforts, you know, some maybe actually absorbing and discussing this study would be a great starting point for a new committee or evolution of that committee. You know what I mean? Really dig into what they've told us and figure out how we're going to get there, you know, type thing.
Thanks.
Will we be following the same process that we did with the community investment money that we did last round in terms of rating and how to disperse those funds?
Yeah, I mean, I was happy to help get it out there and collect it and back to you guys. I don't want to make that decision.
And I just want to like say, sorry, can I just very quick, the kind of scoring sheet that we put together and the values and everything, we're good with that to hand off to you guys, and we don't have to do the voting anymore, right? Okay.
Bummer.
Yeah, so
that was kind of my question.
Yeah.
I thought Mark is going to bring them back to you next time and say, we did the process that you did this time. Here are the.
I think you guys did fantastic with that process.
And we did talk about trying to keep it to 3 to 4 grantees, because it's just a lot of paperwork to process with them.
The only feedback I would have, if, you know, sort of it involves, I would do it a little earlier, make sure the folks that didn't get funding new as well, you know, just, you know, good luck, try again type stuff. You know, that was really it. I think it was very simple. I think people appreciated that, and I can guarantee you pretty much anyone that was funded used it almost immediately. I'm going to send an email out, you know, before the end of the year. The only thing we did ask them was to kind of report back to us that they used the money as they said they would, and, you know, a very rudimentary example of how, you know, whether it's a report or something, I think would be helpful to stick in the file.
What I liked about the process too was that it kind of, even though there was only a few that got the grant, we learned about needs around the city that we may not have otherwise found out. And the city, I think, if I remember correctly, was able to actually take care of some of those things without it being a financial transaction too. So
Yep.
It's great.
Further questions? So I'll give the long view again, right? So probably since you've been here, George, this is the one department that keeps growing significantly faster than the rest of the city.
Weren't they in a mop closet at one point?
Yes.
Downstairs?
Yeah.
He was part-time.
And, you know, I think that's multiple councils over the years, and kind of a recognition that I think when we were a poor community, you know, this was sort of expendable, right? And you had to do some other things. And I think that's been a really important investment. To pull that off, especially with Susan in the room, one has to be very careful on how the overall budgets work, and especially this year, because, people were asking questions about individual line items, and if they involve supplies, the number is, 5 and 10%. And if they involve people, we've got most of the agreements in place, but those are also kind of 2 or 3%. And so in order to make those budgets work, the one piece that's important is having the growth. I mean, we've had the ability to increase our tax base without increasing taxes on our existing consumers, residents, because of that growth. And then we've got this, the sales tax benefit coming into play this year and then for subsequent years. Some of that was investment, and you kind of saw it in these budgets, an extra dispatch, an extra staffer, a growth in this budget. And we're kind of trying to put our investments in place in terms of people. And then we've also got the piece that we're doing with respect to capital. And we just have to be careful. You can tell they're well trained. You ask them questions about, could you use another one? And they say, no, not right now. And
because Susan's kicking them under the table. That's why we put her next to them.
But I will say that I think we're pulling this off really well. And I'm just really impressed at both the individual budgets and the rec department and where we're going, but also overall, it's just fitting really well right now. So thank you all.
Mm-hmm. She's a rock star, just so you know.
I'd like to take credit for Mark because I did put him, he was part-time, and I just, we need this full-time.
Yeah.
And I put it in the budget, and, we needed it. I just saw everything that was happening in the community. And at the time, the mayor and the city administrator, acquiesced, and then the council voted on it. Mm-hmm. But it worked because, watching him work and everything that he handled part-time, talking 19 hours a week, I wanted to scoop him up before somebody else took him. So, can also work in the accounting department.
Usually have PO number 001 every year, but I missed it this year.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
We're
going to have some general questions, if we could hold you for a few minutes, and thank you all. You don't have to.
Thanks, y'all.
Appreciate the solidarity of sticking together, though.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Great job, guys.
Good night.
Jeff, you're up. We want to know. Oh.
You can ask for money, just be careful.
That's true.
Susan, I had one kind of general question. I wanted to know, we did this in 2020 where the initial budget didn't go to the tax cap, and then we had some ideas of things that we wanted to spend money on at that time, bathroom cleaning and whatever they were. And we asked if we could see how someone's tax bill would change if we went to the cap.
Okay.
I think in your presentation you had a couple sample home prices. Do you think the next time that we meet we could take a look at maybe those sample home prices or some others or whatever you think is most illustrative to see what does it mean for an individual's tax bill if we go to the cap?
At cap? So
At
you'd
cap?
like
Sorry, I think it was 12.9 we were allowed to go to, and we did 12.5.
Yes. Yeah. So I can prepare that. So right now the sample was at the current tax rate. So I would prepare one at cap, and you could see what the differences would be in the bill.
Thanks a lot. That'd be helpful.
Yeah, one of the things you'll see in that number is you remember the base proportions, that exciting discussion that we had on what portion of the tax bill goes to the commercial side versus the residential?
No, can you do it again?
Oh,
I'm just kidding. No, it's fine. I remember.
We're good.
And then do paper streets after that.
Yeah, okay. But it kind of varies from year to year. Like there'll be a year where the commercial side gets hit, that was last year, and the residential side gets a benefit. I believe this is the year where the residential side is taking an increase and the commercial side's getting a benefit.
Commercial side is getting a major benefit this year.
And there's
it was vice versa the year before.
Yeah, and it just flops around. It's not in our control. So when you see the numbers, it's going to be an increase, right?
That's why I'm asking, because what I could have done was just taken $400,000 and divided it by the number of buildings in Beacon, but
Yeah.
obviously we need to be in it.
Yeah, because you have to see that balance,
Exactly.
right? So that's important.
Not a problem.
Yep.
Thanks.
Any other general questions? I know there was an email. We tried to answer most of those. But if there's anything else, I can answer those tonight or the next time. Or an email, too. And that can be read at the next meeting.
I had a question about, I don't really know what the question is, so let me just try to explain. So we have this budget or a fund where we put money in from planning board applications that's supposed to support recreation. I can't remember what the name of it is.
Recreation Trust.
Is that what you call it, Recreation Trust? Is that trust like interest bearing, or like what is?
Yes.
So it's like, it's put aside in a way that
Yes.
it grows, and then we can take the growth?
It's in the trust and agency fund.
Okay.
So if there's a planning board application fee that's for that, that's put aside. And then it's used for capital improvements for park.
Mhm.
So depending on what it is, we can transfer monies out of there, and we account for it in the general fund after we transfer it out.
Okay. The reason I'm asking, we have a hard time finding money for sidewalks, it seems. I mean, we've gotten a couple
Can't use
grants, and
that.
we've done some big, South Avenue, and,
Mhm.
but I would love to create a fund so that we can every year know that we're going to be doing some sidewalk repair or sidewalk building.
I think what you're referring to is a capital and improvement fund. So
Okay.
you'd have to raise money each year in the general fund to set aside for that. There is specific requirements with that. You're talking about that, not on developers, right? You're talking.
I'm just trying to understand the mechanics of it. I mean, you could make it a planning board application, but I also struggle with the logic there, because generally when developers build something, the city kind of requires them to put a sidewalk in when they're at that time. So
Right, it's
there's
also
not
the
really a
law.
way to say like, well, you owe us for sidewalks after you
Right.
built one for us. So,
Right.
but I am just kind of thinking of ways that we can find
Rather
money for
than do it
sidewalks.
through the capital plan each year?
I mean, I know that we have to always have a certain amount of water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
and other things going on at all times. So, and I know we don't want to borrow like crazy, so I'm trying to navigate that as well. And I'm just thinking of, if there was a way that we could take like an initial chunk of money, put it into a fund, it starts gaining interest, and we can start using that to build sidewalks, and then we find another way to replenish it year after year. I mean, I know it's a little aspirational and unspecific, but it's just what's been on my mind, and I didn't know how to articulate it.
You have to be careful for is raising funds now for a future year. So you're not supposed to tax people now for the benefit of future taxpayers.
Okay.
So they're supposed to be paying for it for the users this year. So there's just specific requirements for setting up capital improvement accounts. So I can look into that a little bit more for you and make sure we know all the rules.
But I also think there probably is enough here for a separate workshop item on sidewalks. Because it's not just the money, it's also the responsibility. Under our code, if a sidewalk is run down, it's the property owner, the adjacent property owner's responsibility to replace it. Now, then there are exceptions, like when we fully redo a road, like we're fully redoing Fishkill-Teller Avenue. We're redoing approximately, that's 1.7 miles, and maybe, on both sides, it's about maybe 2.5 miles worth of sidewalk. We're doing all of that. We did South Avenue because it goes along our park. But I think we need to have a broader conversation with the attorneys about what we're allowed to fund. There is an item in the city code that says if we do certain sidewalks, we're supposed to pay half of that. Like, let's say we did Walcott, which is between South Avenue and Tyranda. It's in pretty rough shape. And I've thought about trying to queue that up for a future capital project. And in that case, I would just put it in the capital fund for the half that we're supposed to pay. But I want to understand from the attorneys and have a broader discussion, like, what are we allowed to do? What should we be doing? How do you prioritize which sidewalks you do? Everybody, will get a couple calls about a particular sidewalk, but we need to evaluate it in a prioritized sense, or we miss the most important ones.
Yeah. I remember I really enjoy doing this, but the one thing that has been kind of disappointing about being on city council, since when I first ran for office, I was talking to people about sidewalks, and I had a list of sidewalks that I was hoping that we could repair, and I've been asking how to repair sidewalks for almost 3 years, and I have not gotten a single sidewalk repaired. So I'd love to make progress on this, because people ask me to help.
But if I could give a different opinion, you have gotten sidewalks done. You as a body authorized the funding that we spent on South Avenue, and we have a beautiful new sidewalk there. You authorized in the 5-year capital program Teller-Fishkill Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of the most important corridors of the city. And in the annual budgets that you've done, we have enough money that we're grinding sidewalks on Main Street. So in the next few weeks, we're going to be fixing there's about 30 different property owners who we could go and say, well, you got to fix your sidewalk. And we get all manner of little patches and fixes.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided to just pay it's about $10,000 or $11,000 to go and just grind these down so that the sidewalks aren't disheveled and don't have trip hazards. Right. So you are taking care of sidewalks by voting on these various items. I would welcome a broader conversation about how to do other sidewalks. Like, we're going to have, one of our next items is the community development block grant. That's another option for sidewalks.
Which we use for South Ave, right?
Yeah. So we were actually, as soon as we got done with the ones at South Avenue, South Davies Terrace called us and said, hey, our sidewalks are really bad. We're subsidized housing. Can you guys fix the ones on our side of the street? And the engineer and I went and looked at it, and they're really bad. So that's one of the thoughts I had. I looked at Walcott too.
Yeah, this is all great, and I'm not saying that this is. What I'm just saying is there's the congestion that is forming in some of the side streets and away from Main Street and some of the main corridors. We have a ton of cars. We have a lot of cars parked. And there's nothing separating pedestrian, cycling, and vehicle traffic on some roads that are actually quite dangerous. And so I'd like to know that we were always kind of chipping away at that, in addition to doing some of these bigger, larger scale projects, that people were noticing that their sidewalks were being updated in their neighborhoods and not just on Main Street or South Avenue or someplace where tourists go. So.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful as we get these big projects through that we can do more of that, because I do think the sidewalk system is really important. It's part of your mobility and your public safety.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when we can, we try to do it. Like you may remember, we said Central Hudson was paying for repaving of some areas around Master's Place, and we tried to parlay that into new sidewalks there.
Mm-hmm.
So. Again, I think we get to it. I'll tell you the sidewalk replacement we're doing on Fishkill and Teller Avenue is a major investment, and I wouldn't diminish the import of that.
Oh no, certainly not.
And Chris, could you look into, because I remember vaguely, and I could be incorrect, but that we decided at one point that the homeowner would not be responsible for 50% of a new sidewalk in front of their house.
You did. So if you add a new sidewalk, and it just almost seems like different parts of the code conflict with one another.
Right.
So what I'd like to do is let me talk to the attorneys and see if we can do a presentation at workshop about how sidewalks work.
Because sidewalks benefit the community at large.
Yeah.
And no one should, and sometimes the community members say, oh, we'd love to have a sidewalk. Oh, we have to pay for it? I don't want the sidewalk. So the whole block decides they don't want a sidewalk.
Right.
Because they have to pay for it and maintain it.
Yeah.
Or it goes, the sidewalk is going to go on one side of the street or the other. And so the
And
whole
we
street
did-
benefits,
right.
but someone has to pay for it.
And we did a sidewalk study showing where the sidewalks are, but it doesn't prioritize where the investments should go. I'd like to do a little bit of a planning study. Maybe the county can help us at some point on this with figuring out, Main Street, we all know, is a vital corridor, and that we've invested in. You'll see, we've done parts of the sidewalk in front of churches and stuff that will never have the money to be able to fix that. We've been putting ADA ramps in everywhere we repair. But how do you prioritize the next thing down from Main Street? Everybody thinks their street is the most important, so you have to have some kind of criteria. Is it on a route to schools? That to me is a natural one. Or is it in a the ones in the low-income neighborhoods make sense. Like South Avenue is on a park, it's on the way to a school, it's in a low to moderate income neighborhood. And again, I think we just need to do it kind of systematically rather than one-off at a time.
Yeah, I think
because I walk the sidewalks, and I'd love to replace them all. When I was on the council, I argued for the city taking ownership of all of them, and it would have, and they rightly said that's going to bankrupt the city.
Yeah, that was kind of why, when the community was far poorer, it was a struggle, because the homeowners couldn't afford to do it, and we couldn't afford to do it. And so we were using community block money, and we consistently tried to put it to infrastructure. And now that pool is much smaller than it used to be, because we're better off, right, as a community.
And we can only do sidewalks in certain neighborhoods, too.
Correct, because you have to work into the areas that have qualification for the grant still.
Right, unless it's a broad, unless it gives a benefit to the whole community, like you're putting money into your water filtration plant.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, but we can get to it. Will you talk to the attorney?
Yes,
Okay.
and I'll line that up, because I think that's worth putting an item in the capital budget every year.
I agree.
I
thought we had to recoup money in order to pay that off, which was like, like we can upgrade water and sewer forever because we collect money from residents, but I didn't want to, I would never have thought to propose stuff in the capital budget that doesn't actually, I mean, I guess the firehouse is in it, so.
And we can figure out like what's a reasonable number to think we're going to invest each year and have it there. And again, I think Susan and I were trying to get through. We got these two huge nuggets coming down the pike next year, Fishkill Teller Avenue and the firehouse, and we're both.
I thought it was going to be 2 items in the capital plan, and then there's a bunch of others.
Well,
but
we
sort of
needed
like, I
other
think what
things.
you're thinking perhaps is sort of like the milling and paving schedule. We have a lump sum for the sidewalks,
Precisely.
and we come up with a list. But we'll discuss that with the attorneys and determine prioritization.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I had in mind. And, I mean, ward council people, like, we talk to our constituents and we walk our neighborhood. We know,
Right.
also, we know,
Well, there's there's
it's
safety.
unscientific, but, we know where there's pain points,
Right, and, there might be some safety aspects, too, that we're aware of.
Yeah,
that-
that's usually how it comes to my attention, is safety.
And what I thought is, let's have the attorney look at it and see that we have the legal infrastructure to do it. Let's get that nailed down, and then we can run with the program. But as we get to be, a more, we're getting through a long backlog of infrastructure, and we will be able to tackle these things. It's not just the money, it's just getting all of this stuff done. Like you remember with those ADA ramps, we put those out to bid, and it was a crazy high amount, and we ended up doing it in-house for like less than $10,000. But it took a crew 2.5 weeks. So, and like the milling now, we get great value out of our folks working that, but it takes all of them for this time.
Right. The entire water department was working on that as well.
But I think it's a right priority. I agree.
I wanted to add one more layer. I was talking to, I agree with everything that everyone's saying about it being a priority and perhaps the way to do it. I was having a conversation with a constituent who added that it would be even better if our sidewalks were also beautiful and an opportunity for artwork. She had a very simple idea about just imprinting very basic designs in the sidewalks that are teaching moments for students and people who are walking by, and just want to add a layer for us to consider as we're planning these major infrastructure projects, that there could be opportunities for art or interaction that would potentially be very cheap and easy to do, or, I mean, I shouldn't say easy to do because it's still adding a step, but it's literally just like adding a few lines into the pavement.
Yeah, I would just want to ascertain that that's not going to ruin the longevity of those. Like we had trouble with the bump outs that they did, where we had you saw, we ended up having to have the contractor re-pour a number of those, and they were, yeah.
Right, as long as it doesn't, compromise the integrity of the concrete itself.
Right.
Right. Is there anything else tonight for me?
No, and this kind of leads into our next discussion.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll make that amendment on the recreation salary once
Yes.
we run down. I wondered if that got moved to after-school programs.
Nope, that
Okay.
was it was an error.
Okay.
So I will correct that, and I'll have that correction for next workshop.
Great.
Thanks, Susan.
You're welcome.
What budget topics are we discussing in our next workshop?
I can't hear you.
What budget topics are we discussing in our next workshop?
We don't have any specific items. We have the public hearing coming up.
Yeah, you have the public hearing on November 7th.
Right.
And then the following workshop, let us know what questions you have, and I'll figure out who we need here.
Right, so if there's any changes, so for instance, we were going to look into the cost for the radar signs. We'll look at that, and I'll make the change for the salary, and that would be the only changes thus far. And if there would have to be any other questions that you would have, we don't have any more presentations coming forth.
But we'll have at least one more workshop where we're discussing the budget after
Sure.
the public hearing, yeah.
Sure, let me know if you'd like me to be here, and that's not a problem.
Cool. Thank you. Nice.
Okay. Community Block Grant Program.
So each year, the county processes federal money that comes through the Department of Housing and Urban Development that are monies to benefit low and moderate income families. So these have to be used for a particular purpose, and they typically are geographically based in a low to moderate income neighborhood. And that's done by census tract. Now, Beacon used to be almost half the city was eligible. We're down to 3 census tracts in which we now have eligibility, and South Avenue, fortunately, is one of them, and along Fishkill Avenue was one of them. So the last 2 years, we've spent our CDBG allocation on upgrading the sewer along Fishkill Avenue and then doing the South Avenue sidewalks. The county has just opened its 2023 grant round, and as part of the grant requirement, you have to hold a public hearing to say, we're going to receive ideas from the public. We'd like to set that public hearing when you vote on November 7th, and we would set it for, I think, the 20th or 21st. And so we will be putting in the required letter of intent, and then our application is due very quickly after that on December 9th. What I'm vetting right now with the engineer is seeing what sidewalks would cost along South Davies Terrace on South Avenue. Because I think we really, again, you have a school, you have a park, you have, low-income housing, it's an allowable use. So I'm trying to get some kind of cost estimate on what that would be. We generally get 15% of the county's allocation, which they don't know until later in the year. So this past year, it was $178,000. We can roughly expect that amount again
And it has to be used the same year.
Yeah, we would have to use it sometime next year. Sometimes you can roll it over a year. We did that one year during COVID. So,
It's annual, right?
yeah, it's an annual fund.
I don't remember doing this resolution for a public hearing the last couple of years, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, I thought we did it.
I mean, we had public.
Yeah, it just was like, we opened it, nobody spoke, we
Right.
closed it.
I think that's what we did.
It's very perfunctory.
How much was it for the Fishkill Avenue? Do you remember?
So it was approximately the same base amount. It was about 175, and then we carried over 50,000 from the year before. So we were somewhere around, if memory serves, 224, 226.
What was the third? Did you say there were 3 places?
No, we did Fishkill, Hannah Lane sewer, and then we did South Avenue sidewalks.
Oh, you said there were
And
3
in
sets.
earlier years, the walkway along Wilkes Street was done using CDBG funding. Other sewer improvements along that area were done. So we've mainly used it for sidewalks and sewer.
How do we find the map for this? Do you have it handy? Or
Yeah, so
is it-
the map, I will email it around. It's pretty easy to find. If you Google Dutchess County Community Development Block Grant, and you go to their page, there's an eligibility map. The eligibility map is for 2022, but it really isn't going to change for 2023. And the level of detail on it isn't great. So what we usually do is I vet a project, and then I call the county and I say, just confirm for me, this is an allowable use in an allowable area.
So what is the
I'll
process?
send the map link, though. So the process.
I mean, I've done it
yes,
for nonprofits,
You
but
found
not
it in 2 seconds. But you'll see the subsequent pages are these other towns where they have much more detailed maps, and we have, not a very detailed map. So the process is we would apply by December. It's a little perfunctory. We do get our allocation of 15%. We just have to put in a grant that, again, is for an eligible use in an allowed area.
And the public hearing on the 7th is when people
They can
give their
propose
ideas.
other ideas. They could say, well, I looked at the map, and I think we should do new basketball courts at South Avenue, which we're going to resurface anyway. Mark, I don't think Mark said that clearly, but
And we talk about it in workshops sometime at the end of November.
yeah, I'm trying to get more data on what the sidewalk would cost. My goal is to do it from Wolcott Avenue all the way up to across from the school where it goes into Davies South Terrace. I don't know that we have enough money to do it. So that might be one where I come and say, look, I can do 3/4 of it for what we think we're going to get, or I can do the whole thing if you want to put in extra funding. And again, we put that funding in the capital budget next year. So.
All right.
So this is just setting the hearing that we are required to do.
You got Ben, maybe? Want to talk to us about South Brett and West Church on stop
Yes,
signs?
I do.
All right.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'll pull up our document for this. I'm just speaking on behalf of the Traffic Safety Committee in this matter, and I will relay the information that they have asked to relay to you. Let me just get it pulled up here. Okay, so the Traffic Safety Committee, as everyone knows, reviews constituent and resident concerns each month, and then after a couple come together, then we bring them to you in a bundle for you to review. This time we have 2 recommendations for you to consider. The first is making the intersection of South Brett and Beacon Street a 4-way stop. It is currently a 2-way stop, so this would be adding 2 new stop signs and putting that in the code as well to make that enforceable. This comes from a number of constituents who had raised this issue. It wasn't just one. And the committee considered this to be a pretty straightforward recommendation. And I can answer any questions on that. but I'll do both of them at once and we can just go to questions for everything. The second one is one that's actually come before you before. It's been amended a little bit since then. This came up a few months back where the fire chief and the traffic safety committee had recommended increasing a no parking zone from the existing at the intersection of West Church and Cross Street. Really, in effect, this would just add 20 feet of no parking radius along West Church Street on the north side to accommodate emergency vehicle access. The law does also state 30 feet on the south side, but that is actually the default radius in all intersections. So it's really just for clarity that already has a 30-foot radius. And this is based off of the measurements taken by Chief Van Voorhis about what is necessary to accommodate our emergency vehicles to make a turn at that intersection. As you can see from the yellow lines here, there's a number of existing no parking rules that are at this intersection. I left them there just so it's clear to you what exactly the whole situation for the intersection is, but the blue is the only thing being added by this law, and in effect, it's really just the north side that has any change at all. The law does not change the limited hour parking along West Church Street. I left that on there just to clarify. In effect, that 50-foot radius, you'd lose 20 feet of that hourly parking, but it's not changing anything else along West Church. So that's the committee's recommendations based on their discussions and also based on the measurements taken by Chief Van Voorhis. And I can answer any questions if you have any.
I do have a question about the South Brett Street. I don't know that 4 stop signs make sense, only because I thought that the north side of South Brett Street is a one-way. Is it not?
Not that block.
Not that block.
Right, because it's Beacon Street, not
There. Grab a mic.
Oh, sorry.
Right. Okay.
You're walking around like Phil Donahue doing this.
It's a good mobile mic if you want.
Oh, I can go talk to the audience. There's so many out there. Sorry, I was just getting warm. You okay?
Yes, those are not one-way streets to my knowledge.
My question, and I think you answered this in the past, but what the notification procedures are for the adjacent property owners on West Church Street? If we are letting them know in any way, or there's just going to be a sign up in front of their home?
I don't think we have a formal procedure for notifying residents. I will note that the last time this came to you, we did have some residents from there come to the public hearing, which is why this was tabled and reconsidered. So I believe they were aware of it the last go around, and we do hold a public hearing on all of these local law changes that they have an opportunity to speak at.
I think they do get notice. We should check on that.
I could be wrong. The committee isn't the one, as far as I know, making that notification.
Okay, can you check and just let the council know?
Yes, of course.
Great, thanks. Okay. Paloma, you're up. Clean slate.
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Yep.
Thank you,
Thanks, Ben.
So this is a resolution for the city to support a piece of state legislation called the Clean Slate Act. What this act would do is that when a person has completed their jail or prison time, has completed their probation or parole, is not on the sex offender registry, and has no subsequent New York State conviction or pending New York State charges, their criminal record would be automatically sealed after 1 year for misdemeanors or 3 years for felonies. And their record, if all of this is still true, including that they have no subsequent convictions, those records would be automatically expunged after 5 years for misdemeanors and 7 years for felonies. So the idea here is that once somebody has already served their time for a past crime, that they should not be continually punished or unfairly penalized by society for an old mistake. We know from the data that oftentimes housing and job discrimination is acted against people who have a past record without any real understanding of what the crime was. It could have been a petty theft of some kind. It could have been possession of an illegal substance that they had as a young person, and they're then penalized through discriminatory practices or implicit bias for the rest of their lives. There are other states who have adopted such measures, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, Utah, and Connecticut, and have had no adverse effects. The reason that I think that this is important for Beacon, in addition to being important for any New York State person, is that we have a couple of ways in which Beacon is a prison town. We have prisons within our city walls, and we also have several programs that serve the nearby prisons, including the Beacon Prison Rides Program, which has dispatched, I believe, about 1,900 rides in the last 5 years. We also have the Beacon Books Project, which has distributed about 2,000 books to incarcerated people who are looking to stay connected to the outside world. And I just want to read something from one of the advocates from these groups. We believe in redemption and the humanity of incarcerated people. Like those of us on the outside, these are people with families who love them, with intellectual and spiritual interests, with goals and dreams for their life beyond prison. Our projects recognize those commonalities and try to help the general public come to that understanding as well. We strive to do that just a little bit to help incarcerated New Yorkers hold on to those parts of themselves while the carceral system in every aspect of its design works to deny their humanity. Obviously, the work of these organizations is for people who are currently incarcerated, and the Clean Slate Act only applies to people who are outside the system. But we also know that all of these initiatives are what helps people hold on to their humanity through that process, and I think is equally important. If anyone has any questions about the resolution or the terms in it, I'm happy to discuss.
I would just add the New York State Senate passed this in June. It just didn't pass the Assembly. And Colorado just passed it.
Great.
Okay, any other comments? All right, thank you. Last item's one regarding flexible day, vacation days.
So we have added to the packet, you received by email, and the public has an updated packet, a draft side letter agreement, which is a memorandum of agreement with the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, the PBA. We're trying to, again, figure out how to deal with our overtime issue, and one of the ways that we'd like to deal with it is by buying back unused vacation and giving more flexibility in using vacation. Because what happens now with the shift coverage that we have so few officers to cover the shift. If one takes vacation, we're basically backfilling with overtime. So what we'd like to do is two things. One is offer a buyback of up to 10 days of vacation this year and 10 days of vacation next year. Because we have this pipeline that we're trying to get new officers in, but it's going to have a lag. It's going to have, we're going to be facing challenges with overtime well into 2023. The other thing it does is it allows them to use individual vacation days. For some reason years ago, I guess one of the police chiefs got into the contract that if you were there less than 7 years, you could use 5 individual days, but no more. Then you had to take them in blocks of 5. And the unanticipated, it does make scheduling a little easier, but the unintended consequences at the end of the year, if somebody has used their individual days and they want to take 2 days off, they end up having to take 5. So we're filling that with 5 overtime shifts. The PBA has agreed to this. They would bring this to a vote at their meeting on November 2nd. I wanted to put it before you and see if you could approve it on the 7th, and then it would go into effect If you have a sense that this is okay with you, we do have the money to cover the buyback. We don't think everybody's going to use it. A lot of people want to use the time. And we did offer a similar program during COVID with a buyback of 5 days. And again, it's not the panacea, but it's another tool in the toolbox to bring down overtime. Yeah. We're trying every way we can to bend that cost curve. It's going to be a long time to get it sustainably in place.
Okay.
And I do have a quick executive session that I would request we go into.
Oh, we need to know what it's for, right?
It's for real estate.
Okay, so I make a motion to go into executive session for real estate and discuss no other business.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Ron and George, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
All
Good
right,
night,
thank you.
everyone.
I finally got you to stop.
right,
Just
Ben-
stop
Ben, you
laughing
can-
every time
thank you.
I made a motion.